If you follow the daily headlines, the narrative feels set in stone. The rhetoric from analysts and state media alike presents a specific future, a blockade or an invasion of the Taiwan Strait, as an unavoidable historical event. But most of this analysis relies on political intent and historical grievances. It often fails to account for the physical and technological barriers that actually dictate the movement of ships, missiles, and money. To see what's actually happening, we have to look past the political theater and examine the theater of war through the lens of system dynamics and the unyielding laws of physics. Think of it as an invasion equation, a model where hard data, not propaganda, determines the success or failure of a military operation. When we process the variables currently on the table, the narrative of an inevitable invasion begins to break down. Instead, the data reveals a series of mathematical paradoxes that raise the cost of conflict to levels that few regimes are actually designed to survive. The first variable is the sheer physics of mass. Preparing for a massive military operation requires the physical displacement of hundreds of thousands of people, millions of gallons of fuel, and tons of equipment. These movements generate a massive energy signature that is impossible to mask. Monitoring these movements is a terrestrial early warning backbone, centered on systems like Taiwan's PAVE-PAWS radar. These structures are designed specifically to track large-scale physical shifts in real time. This is backed by a growing network of small SAR satellites. Because these use synthetic aperture radar, they can see through cloud cover and darkness, providing a constant, weather-independent view of the entire theater. These physical constraints effectively eliminate the element of surprise. They provide a warning window of 30 to 90 days, allowing a defending force to shift its assets and reorganize its positions long before the first ship leaves the dock. A naval blockade creates a unique vulnerability for the attacker. To maintain a perimeter, multi-billion-dollar warships must remain relatively stationary in fixed waters, making them high-value targets for defensive technology. The response is a low-cost counter-network. This consists of suicide drones and unmanned surface vessels that operate as a swarm, designed to overwhelm the sensors and defenses of even the most advanced destroyers. This is a Hyung-Fang 3 missile. Systems like these enforce a no-go zone from the shore, utilizing high-speed profiles that are difficult for traditional naval defenses to intercept. This chart highlights the blockade paradox. In modern conflict, a $1 million drone swarm can reliably disable or sink a $1 billion warship. The attacker has to risk their most expensive assets against weapons that are orders of magnitude cheaper to produce. For any military planner, this exchange ratio is a failure. The mathematical risk to the fleet makes a traditional blockade a high-probability disaster before the operation even starts. If we zoom out to the broader geography of the Indo-Pacific, we see that the attacker's own position is structurally fragile. The aggressor's industrial machine relies almost entirely on energy and food imports that must pass through the Malacca Strait. This dependency is a massive strategic vulnerability. Defending forces don't need to win a battle in the Taiwan Strait to succeed. They only need to hold those distant choke points, severing the lifeblood of the attacker's economy from thousands of miles away. In this scenario, the resulting logistics freeze on commercial shipping would be absolute. The flow of global trade into the region would essentially stop. Attempting a global blockade would likely trigger a systemic collapse of the aggressor's own industrial supply chain. Within weeks, the attacker would face the same resource exhaustion they were trying to impose on others. Modern targeting has also evolved. Conflict now threatens the specific power and wealth nodes that sustain the lives of the ruling class. The international community has developed a sophisticated playbook for precision sanctions and asset seizures. This allows the financial systems of the world to directly target the hidden wealth and personal security of authoritarian leaders. Historically, when the price of basic needs like food and fuel spikes against a baseline of stagnant wages, the resulting social friction puts immense pressure on a regime's internal stability. For an elite whose primary goal is self-preservation, the probability of regime destabilizing unrest makes war an increasingly irrational choice. The math suggests that the internal risk of conflict far outweighs the external reward. When we synthesize these variables, the lack of surprise, the tech asymmetry, and the economic dependencies, we find that the actual option for war is buried under layers of strategic friction. In this light, the daily geopolitical noise isn't a countdown to an inevitable disaster. It's better understood as a series of minor fluctuations in a system that is currently anchored by very stable, very expensive deterrence. Understanding this cold, mathematical reality allows you to filter out the theater of fear. You can adopt what some call a stone Buddha mindset, remaining analytical, grounded, and unimpressed by the rhetoric of threat. When you stop scrolling through the headlines and start calculating the constraints, the fear loses its grip. It allows you to focus on the reality of your own life, your work, and the moment you are living in right now.